Now I invite Dr. Sumit Khanduja ji. I just brief his introduction. He completed both his postgraduate and VR residency from AIMS New Delhi, and currently he is working at Karnal Kalpana Chawla Medical College. He is among the first person to use Sony A7S system to record retinal surgeries, and now working on 3D live surgical recording solutions. He will talk and share about his experience, how to choose commercial cameras for surgical recording.
Well, thank you, Jaipur Ophthalmic Society, for giving me an opportunity to be with you. So I'll be speaking on choosing your commercial cameras for your OT recording system. So we already know that there are a lot of commercial cameras, medical grade cameras in the market, and prominent ones by Ikegami and Sony, and they are wonderful cameras, high resolution, very phenomenal cameras, and a lot of people use them. So the question is that why choose an unconventional system? So the next video will probably explain you why. That if you had a camera which you could, on which you could record the beautiful glow while doing your capsulorhexis, and while even on operating on a high zoom, you never missed any clarity, any detail. Like this case of keratoprosthesis, every suture and every direction looks to be crystal clear. If this was the case, and not only you could record your anterior segment surgeries with the same camera, you could record your macular surgeries, and your peripheral retina was also very beautifully visible. And now most of the people say that yes, the retina is visible with my camera, but it loses all focus when I switch on the air. So if this did not happen, the view was again crystal clear on the, as you were seeing in the microscope, you were able to see on your monitor. If this you were able to get, and the same camera after your OR, you were able to record on your slit lamp and use the same camera for your vacations, I don't think that it would be a bad deal to buy it. And for those people who still have a doubt, I would say that if you could use these cameras to start recording 3D videos, then it's definitely not a bad deal. So just with these small facts, moving ahead, basically there are two types of commercial cameras that we have. One is a mirrorless camera and other is the DSLR. So I'm sure that these two look very similar and you have seen both of these cameras. So what is the difference between a mirrorless camera and a DSLR? DSLR means digital single light reflex camera. Now what happens is basically in a DSLR camera is that the light, it enters through the camera lens and it hits a mirror. Now after hitting the mirror, it is directed to a pentaprism, to a structure that we call the pentaprism. And this light, it exits the eyepiece, or what you call as a viewfinder. Now this is what happens in a DSLR camera. Now what they have done in a mirrorless camera is that this part, this mirror, has been removed, and the light it falls directly on the sensor, and the sensor is electronically connected to a digital eyepiece, to a digital LCD eyepiece. It's like a small LCD screen, and you can see directly. So this mirror is not there. Now just to give you a small demonstration of this, so this is, I have opened up the lens, and this is the lens this is the mirror which is firing. So whenever you hit the click button, the lens, it shifts up, the mirror, it shifts up, and the light, it falls on the sensor. And what happens actually in a mirrorless camera is there is no such shutter. All you have is when you open up the lenses, when you open up on the body, you see the sensor, a 35 millimeter sensor directly onto the close to the surface. So this is the basic difference between a DSLR and a mirrorless camera. Now, how does it work to our advantage is that these cameras, the mirrorless cameras, they are nearly 1.5 inches thinner than the DSLR. Why? Because that mirror aspect is lost, it is not there. So they come out to be thinner. Now you would say that I don't mind whether it is thin or thick as far as it does my work. Now thing is that also not only they are thinner, they are also lighter. So here the mirrorless cameras are close to 600 grams, whereas the other cameras, they are nearly 200 grams heavier. Now you would say that how does 200 gram matter? Yes, it matters because this camera is going to be put on the near the optical head, and it has to be the weight has to be carried by your microscope's arm. Now the medical cameras, they weigh close to 50 grams. So for those people who are using a basic microscope which is supported by screws, this low weight, I believe it is helpful. Now, coming to the advantages and disadvantages, this electronic viewfinder, the advantage of the electronic viewfinder is that you see exactly on the screen what is being shot. So what happens is that your mirror images, they get focused, they get defocused. So what exactly will the image, how it will be captured, that you can see on the viewfinder. Second, but it comes at a problem that the battery life, it gets reduced, and these cameras generally have a slower autofocus. Now the autofocus thing is not so important to us, because as such when we will be attaching these cameras to the operating microscope, we will not be using the autofocus mode, we'll be focusing them manually. Now coming to which camera to buy, almost all companies you have heard of, the prominent companies, they are making mirrorless cameras now. But some things, I mean, over time, what we have learned out of our own experiences, that Canon and Nikon, which are market leaders in DSLR, they are new to the mirrorless market. Sony has preceded them. Second, Leica cameras, they are very, very good, but are very expensive. A black and white Leica camera can cost as high as $9,000. Third, for example, I work in a tier 2 city. So while you are choosing a mirrorless camera, it is very important that you see which company you are choosing for, and do you have a service center. I think this problem is not relevant for Jaipur, because it's almost a semi metro, and all the companies will be having. But for those people who are working, you know, outside Jaipur or other cities of Rajasthan, for them this point is relevant. Then Panasonic is one company which you have heard mostly for VCRs and for handycams. This company is also making good mirrorless cameras and is improving in the market. And then Sony, although it has been a late entrant in the camera market, it is good and is strong in technology and network. So this is just I'm showing you, this is a photograph of the Chandni Chowk camera market. When I visited this in 2014, in the whole market, I found only one person who was selling the Sony cameras in gray. And today, Sony occupies close to 42% of the total market share. So this is how the change has come. The next thing when you see is that when you're choosing a camera is the sensor size. Now, just to tell you, there are 3 or 4 types of sensors. One is a full frame sensor. Full frame sensors are close to 36 into 24 millimeters. Why we call them full frame is because that is the approximate size of the film reel, which are used in cinemas. So they've got the largest sensor. The sensor has got immense, low light capability. Why? Because of its large size. So, and if you plan to use these cameras also for your recreational purposes, let me tell you, the lenses are very expensive. The minimum cost is around close to 60,000-70,000. Then are the APS-C standard. This is the sensor which is used in most of the cameras that you get for 30, 40, 50,000. Most of the people that will be buying. Then is the micro 4x3 sensor. This is the sensor which is preferred by Blackmagic cameras and by Panasonic, and so forth. So if your dominant practice is an anterior segment practice, I'll be very honest that most cameras will do well. Most of the mirrorless cameras are going to do well, irrespective of the model or the company. So just going to telling you about these the models in brief. Sony basically has got the A7 series. In this, you've got the Sony A7S, the A7R, and the A7. S stands for sensitivity. These cameras, they have got immense low light capability, very good. The R stands for resolution. and resolution means they've got a sensor which is around 42 megapixel or more than that, and this is very good for those people who want to do still photography along with recording their videos, and enlarge and make large portraits. If you do not want, if you want something which trades off well in terms of sensitivity and resolution, you can buy the A7 series. And most of these cameras, all of these, they come with 4K internal recording, and the price is close to 1.5 to 2 lakhs. They also have APS-C sensor formats. APS-C is a smaller sensor. These cameras are cheaper, and there are two models, 6100 and 6600. These are suitable for those people who are looking out for anterior segment surgery solution only. Then Panasonic comes out with two beautiful cameras, GH4 and GH5. Rather, GH4 was from the first camera which had an internal 4K recording, and this also cost between close to 1 to 1.5 lakhs. Now recently they have come with another model, that is the S1H, which has got a 6K recording. Now you would say that what is the benefit of 4K, 6K, when most of your projectors, for example, even if you have to present in a conference, all the projectors are full HD projectors. The advantage comes that you can crop the video, you can crop your videos without losing upon the resolution if you're recording. This is the advantage, but the disadvantage is that eat up a lot of memory. Then Nikon has come up with, has recently moved into the mirrorless camera market with the Z6 and the Z7 models, and they also have a very good, they have a resolution of close to 42 megapixel. Price is again between 1.7 to 2.2 lakhs. And Canon as such is not very strong in the mirrorless market. Their full frame and the APS-C sensors, they cost anywhere between 35,000 to 1.8, but anyway the sensor reviews of these cameras are not very strong. So this was just in brief running through about various companies. Now there are some special considerations for those people who are performing and recording vitreoretinal surgery. First is that you understand that megapixels is not everything. Most of you who you see advertisements every day, especially of smartphones or of other cameras, they talk 48 megapixels, 68 megapixels, 72 megapixels. So I mean, megapixels is not the only aspect you have to look in while in seeing the quality of the sensor. So just I will give you a small example. On the left, I have recorded a video using a 24 megapixel camera. It costed me around 30,000. It's an Alpha 58 camera. And on the right, it is a 12 megapixel camera. Imagine, it costed me around 1.3 lakhs at that time. So here what I've done is I have taken a video of a candle, and which is the only light source in the room. And it just, you can say that it simulates the end of endoluminator light. So now what I'm doing is I'm gradually increasing the sensitivity of the sensor. What happens is that the candle starts to appear a little brighter, but nothing else is visible. Almost everything in the room is dark. This is what is with the 24 megapixel sensor. Now you see what a 12 megapixel sensor does. I'm increasing the sensitivity, the ISO, everything in the room around, it is visible. And if you believe me, the candle was the only light source in the room. So that is the first thing you have to understand, is that megapixel is not everything. There are more aspects, dimensions to a sensor. That is, the first is the low light sensitivity. Second is your sensor should have high signal to noise ratio. For those of you who are doing an OCT, you would know what a signal to noise ratio means. Here I am using that 30,000 camera for recording my vitreoretinal surgery. The structures are visible, the retina is visible, but it is all grainy, just like what you saw on your Doordarshan television days. So this kind of recording is not what you would like to show in maybe in a conference or in a CME. The third aspect is a broad dynamic range. What does a broad dynamic range mean? Broad dynamic range means that your camera sensor should be able to look at the well-lit and the poorly lit areas equally well. So if you see the center of the screen, this is this wall, this is very brightly lit. Just like the retina which is in front of the illuminator, it is very brightly lit. Whereas the corners, they were dark. these corners were dark. And if you see that this is the beautiful capability of the human eye, that we have a very broad dynamic range. We are able to see the poorly lit and the well lit areas equally well. And more the sensors, they are able to come closer to the characteristic of the human eye, the more expensive or more refined it gets. So what we are able to see is we are able to see a brightly lit wall, and we are also able to see the small moon in the center of the image. So these are some of the aspects that you should know while you are trying to evaluate or finalize your camera, that what is the megapixel, what is the dynamic range, what is the signal to noise ratio. So this is just to try to make you understand what does dynamic range mean. That again, I'm shooting on a low quality camera, the peripheral area is not visible. The moment I increase the illumination, the central area only gets brighter, the peripheral retina is not seen. Again, not an acceptable quality of image resolution. So coming on to which one to buy. Now this is on the basis of small research. You cannot try each and every camera. So this is what we get on the basis that these are some of the good sensors. I have finalized these cameras because you can go with any of the mounts you want. Some people, they say that I'm already using Nikon, some people say I'm using Sony. So Nikon Z6, Sony A7 II, A9, these are all phenomenal sensors. And if you do not want to invest so high, you can go on to these lower model cameras. So just to say that you may not be able to test, or every camera you may not be able to get a demo. So what you can do is that any new camera, for example, now recently Sony A7S3 is being launched in the market. You can go to a website which is called DxOMark. So this basically is one of the most authentic websites which compares the sensors of these cameras, and on there you can look at the charts. I think the most important chart to look is for this one, that is the signal to noise ratio chart. So what you will see is that as you increase the ISO, that means you go onto the low light situation, the signal to noise ratio, it keeps falling. So this is the chart you have to see and you have to compare. So here for example, I have chosen 3 cameras, Sony A7S2, Z6 and Z7. So they almost have the same chart. So in future, in any camera you want to buy, new models will keep coming. So you can go and compare these charts and choose your camera. Thank you.
Excellent talk, Samir.